Have you ever wondered if you're unknowingly holding yourself back from becoming the best version of you? Or worse, surrounding yourself with people who keep you stuck in harmful cycles? In this video, we're diving into 7 undeniable signs of a foolish person through the lens of Stoicism. By the end, you might find yourself reflecting on your own actions and relationships, but more importantly, you'll walk away with powerful insight to improve your life. The Stoics, philosophers who lived over 2,000 years ago, were obsessed with mastering one thing: the art of living well. To them, true wisdom wasn't about appearing smart or accumulating knowledge. It was about cultivating virtue, discipline, and clarity of thought to navigate life's challenges with resilience and grace. On the flip side, foolishness wasn't about lacking education or intelligence. It was a mindset, a collection of attitudes and behaviors that lead to self-sabotage and suffering. As the Stoic teacher Epictetus once said, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." Let's explore the first sign of a foolish person. Sign 1. They reject growth and learning. Foolish people entrench themselves in their own narrow perceptions, locking the gates of their minds against the unfamiliar. They don't truly listen. Their ears are merely waiting rooms for rebuttals, prepared not to understand but to counter. They cling to their beliefs like a child clutching a worn-out toy, afraid to let go even when it's broken and useless. To them, admitting fault feels like a wound rather than a revelation. So they choose the soothing familiarity of ignorance over the sharp, cleansing sting of growth. But consider Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful rulers the world has ever known, a man who commanded legions and held the fate of an empire in his hands. Despite his unmatched authority, he penned these humble words: "If anyone can refute me and show me I am making a mistake or looking at things from the wrong perspective, I will gladly change. For it is the truth I seek, and the truth never harmed anyone." Imagine the humility required to speak such words, especially from a man whose position demanded infallibility. This is the mark of wisdom, a willingness to be corrected, an eagerness to shed error like dead skin. So what separates the wise from the foolish? The wise understand that strength lies not in rigid certainty, but in the fluidity of growth. They welcome new perspectives like fresh air blowing through an open window. The fool, however, barricades themselves behind walls of pride and stubbornness, mistaking those very barriers for fortresses of strength. But a fortress built of ignorance is no fortress at all. It's a prison. Sign 2. They are easily offended. Nothing exposes a fragile ego more than an inability to accept criticism. It's like armor made of glass, seemingly strong but shattering at the slightest touch. Fools bristle at every perceived slight, whether real or conjured by their own insecurity. Their emotions are like dry leaves in the wind, stirred easily and scattered without control. A single word of disapproval feels like an assault on their very identity, igniting defensiveness and anger as if their worth were under siege. Seneca, the Stoic sage who spent a lifetime contemplating human nature, understood this well. He regarded anger and defensiveness not as signs of strength, but as glaring weaknesses. A noble heart is not quick to take offense. It is above such petty insults, he wrote, recognizing that true resilience lies in composure. When faced with criticism, the wise see an opportunity, a chance to refine their character, sharpen their understanding, and grow stronger. It's the heat of the forge that tempers iron. Why should the soul be any different? But the fool sees only an attack. Their pride surges to the forefront, clouding their judgment and stunting their growth. They become trapped within their own emotional fortress, unwilling to lower their defenses even when the intention behind the criticism is meant to help, not harm. How many relationships have been strained? How many opportunities squandered simply because someone chose pride over humility? A wise person absorbs criticism like rich soil absorbs rain, using it to nourish their own improvement. The fool, however, rejects it like parched earth, allowing their potential to wither and dry up. And in their stubbornness, they alienate those around them, friends, mentors, even loved ones, until all that remains is the bitter echo of their own wounded pride. Sign 3. They chase short-term pleasures. Fools are shackled by their desires, imprisoned by the very impulses they mistake for freedom. They lunge hungrily toward immediate gratification, like moths drawn to the deceptive glow of a flame, blind to the inevitable burn. Whether it's the allure of luxury, the intoxicating praise of others, or the numbing comfort of destructive habits, their pursuits are frantic, restless, and ultimately hollow. Seneca cautioned against this endless chase, remarking, "The fool's life is spent in pursuing the things he dreads and avoiding the things he ought to endure." But how often do we see this truth unfold in the real world? Consider the man who spends his days chasing wealth at the expense of his integrity, believing that each new possession will silence the gnawing emptiness within. Or the woman who compulsively seeks validation on social media, her sense of self-worth, rising and falling with the fickle tides of public approval. They chase pleasure like hunters lost in a fog, their efforts increasingly desperate, their satisfaction ever out of reach. The food tastes sweet, but leaves a bitter aftertaste. The applause feels gratifying, but fades into silence. The Stoics understood that true contentment is not a prize to be seized from the external world, but a state of being cultivated from within. It arises from the quiet strength of aligning your actions with your deepest principles, of enduring hardship with grace and refusing to be swayed by the whims of desire. Can you imagine the freedom that comes from no longer being a slave to fleeting temptations? From building a life rooted in purpose rather than impulse? The wise seek fulfillment not in what they can consume or control, but in what they can become. Sign 4. They refuse responsibility. When life's inevitable storms hit, whether it's a failed relationship, a missed opportunity, or a career setback, fools are the first to cast blame outward. They point fingers at colleagues, loved ones, or the merciless hand of fate, all while shielding themselves from the discomfort of introspection. They hide behind excuses, weaving elaborate tales of how the world has wronged them. Epictetus, with timeless clarity, declared, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." But how often do we pause to truly grasp the weight of those words? The wise understand that hardship is a mirror, reflecting both our strengths and our flaws. They dissect their own choices and reactions with brutal honesty, acknowledging missteps not as curses, but as lessons. Contrast this with the fool's mindset, where every failure is an injustice inflicted by external forces, never a consequence of their own actions. Imagine a man who loses his job and lashes out at his employer's incompetence, never once considering his own lack of effort or growth. This refusal to confront personal responsibility breeds a relentless cycle of frustration, anger, and victimhood. How can true growth ever emerge from a mindset so rigid and defensive? Genuine progress is born from the courage to own your actions and responses, to scrutinize your own faults without flinching. Without such ownership, change is not just improbable, it's impossible. Sign 5. They lack purpose and direction. Fools wander through life like ships lost at sea, tossed by every wave of circumstance and whim. Without clear goals or guiding principles, they drift aimlessly, surrendering their direction to fleeting desires and the fickle opinions of others. It's as if they stand in the midst of a bustling crowd, pulled in every direction by voices louder than their own. They chase pleasure without understanding, pursue approval without conviction, and abandon pursuits at the first sign of difficulty. Their efforts are scattered, like leaves caught in the wind, never settling long enough to take root. Marcus Aurelius, a man who ruled the greatest empire of his time while grappling with his own humanity, offered a simple but profound command. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one. His words cut through the noise, urging us to act rather than debate, to build rather than merely dream. Wisdom is not a gift bestowed upon the fortunate. It is the result of deliberate effort, a relentless commitment to living according to your highest values. But how often do we find ourselves pulled off course by distractions, by doubts, by the seductive ease of complacency? How often do we allow ourselves to be led by impulses rather than intentions? Foolishness is not merely ignorance. It is the failure to choose a path and walk it with purpose. It is the comfort of inertia, the surrender to habits that degrade rather than elevate. The wise, by contrast, carve their path with intention, guided by principles that remain steady even when the world around them trembles. Sign 6. They surround themselves with toxicity. Fools often find themselves entangled in a web of negativity and drama, drawn to chaos as moths are to flame. They seek out companions who mirror their flaws, those who validate their destructive tendencies and echo their bitterness. It's as if their very identity feeds on conflict, thriving in environments where envy, gossip, and resentment flow as freely as wine at a glutton's feast. Instead of pursuing growth, they anchor themselves to relationships that celebrate mediocrity, where ambition is mocked and wisdom dismissed. The Stoics, with their sharp clarity of thought, understood this all too well. They believed that the people you choose to surround yourself with shape your character like a sculptor's chisel shapes marble. Marcus Aurelius cautioned, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. But what of the thoughts we absorb from others? What of the unseen influence of a bitter friend or a complacent crowd? Imagine striving for greatness while chained to those who ridicule your efforts. Every moment spent with the narrow-minded is a step away from your highest self." The Stoics urged us to seek out those who elevate us, who push us to confront our weaknesses and refine our virtues. Consider the athlete who trains with the best, enduring pain and hardship, not for the sake of suffering, but for the strength it brings. Now contrast that with the fool who lingers among the lazy, comforted by their shared stagnation. Growth demands discomfort, challenge, and above all, wise companionship. To walk the Stoic path is to seek out those who, through their own excellence, compel you to rise higher. So, who do you choose to walk beside you? Sign 7. They speak more than they listen. Finally, fools are quick to share their opinions, but rarely take the time to truly listen and understand others. They dominate conversations, eager to showcase their own knowledge or beliefs, often without considering the value of silence and reflection. As Epictetus advised, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. Wisdom often grows in silence and observation. Fools, however, drown out opportunities for growth with their own noise. To wrap things up, the Stoics taught us that wisdom is a lifelong pursuit. It's about recognizing your flaws, seeking truth, and striving to become better every single day. The first step to wisdom is acknowledging where foolishness still exists within you, and once you do, you're already on the path to becoming wiser. Which of these traits do you notice most often, in yourself or in others? Let me know in the comments below.